Hello, this is Pauline Jennings. Welcome to Musician Talk. My guest today is Rachel Gordon Mercer. She has spent the last 2 decades teaching, playing, and learning music. During that time, she has taught classroom music, directed bands, and started several ukulele clubs. Rachel's professional background includes a bachelor's in music, theory composition from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and a master's in music education from Bowling Green State University. She has been a small ensemble coach, honor band section coach, MBDA audition judge, and contest judge throughout southern Minnesota. Rachel currently directs band, jazz band, ukulele club, and teaches guitar at Beckman Middle School in Farmington, Minnesota. In her spare time, Rachel plays in and has conducted and performed with the Northfield Community Band and Cannon Valley Regional Orchestra. Always looking for a new musical challenge, Rachel plays clarinet with the Bridge Square Band, the Northfield Clarinet Trio, and leads the Hot Spot Ukulele Jam. Let's find out more. Let's talk to Rachel Gordon Mercer. Hi, Rachel, and welcome to Musician Talk.
Hi.
It's great to see you. Your beautiful face. So we're going to jump right in. And the first thing I always ask everybody is for some examples of how COVID has affected their life. In this case, either as a teacher, as a musician, or both.
Well, if we go back to March of 2020, we were getting ready for a small ensemble concert that I do with 6th graders and preparing for that, as well as our band jubilee, which is our exit bands for each band at each school level. And both of those concerts got immediately canceled and we were sent home, and I started teaching using Google Meet and trying to do band rehearsals and lessons over the computer and over Google. So that was an abrupt change to my teaching life, because I like to play along with other people, and trying to figure out how to teach students and play with them in this digital setting was something I had never anticipated needing to do, let alone do it for a year. Wow. So I've been teaching lessons online for a year now and finally got back into school this last week.
Were you able to figure out a way to play with your students with the latency?
With some, I could. It really depended on the student. So if they were a strong enough player, I could play duets with them because I could anticipate how high it was going to be. And so then I could play together and make it work. But for 6th graders who aren't strong players on their own, it didn't work very well. So I learned that we do a lot of relays, is what I call it. So I play a measure and then they play a measure and I play a measure and they play a measure, and we go back and forth. And that works really well and kind of gives them the feeling of you got to keep going and you got to play together. Yeah.
Any silver linings for you in this whole pandemic journey?
I think one thing is my communication skills, trying to really think about what it is I want students to do and be able to tell them instead of just show them.
Oh, right.
Or do it for them. So like my clarinets, for example, it's super easy and quick to grab that clarinet, fix the reed, hand it back to them.
Right.
And now we're playing, and I can't grab their clarinet and fix that reed. And so I have to be able to really explain how to adjust their reed. And so then I have to think about, well, what is it that I'm actually doing? One day I had a saxophone student, he wasn't playing well, and he couldn't figure out why. And his reed wasn't working well. So we did all the stuff. And then I said, okay, now you need to go ask your mom for a nail file. And he looked at me like I was a crazy person, and I get that a lot. And I said, no, go ask her for a nail file. And he was like, okay. And he was gone for a while. And he came back, and I told him how to figure out what to adjust on the reed. And then I said, okay, now take that nail file and just kind of file that down a little bit. And amazingly, it worked.
Wow.
It played better when he was done. And I said, okay, now take the nail file and throw it in the garbage can, because he's a 6th grader. And he goes, well, should I give it back to my mom? And I said, no, your mom does not want that nail file. Throw it in the garbage can. And he was like, okay. And he did. And we moved on. So
That's great.
Trying to figure out how to tell them what they need to do, which, makes them more independent in the long run.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe when you get back to the classroom, you can do it for them at the same time you're explaining it in this new concise way that you have of explaining things. That's a great outcome. That's a great silver lining. Love it. So I want to take you back to what your first musical memories are. Is it playing? Is it listening? And then take me on the journey up to now in a concise, quick way.
It's a very long journey.
Your long journey into 10 minutes, please go now.
Oh, the first things I remember are actually taking piano lessons and my mom buying a piano and my dad saying, nobody's going to play that. Because at the time, nobody played piano in my family, but she had always wanted to learn. And never got to, and said, well, my kids will learn how to play the piano. And so for those piano lessons, the thing that stuck out in my head was I was taken out of class. I was in the second grade, and my teacher would come and get me from my second grade classroom and take me over to have my piano lesson and then bring me back to class. And that wasn't normal. That they didn't come get everybody it was, I don't know why they came and got me, but that was how I had my piano lessons in the beginning, were during class. So I thought that was pretty cool and special, because anything to get out of class was a good deal. And so that was how I started piano lessons. And so most of my early memories of music are my piano lessons. And I had a teacher that, I wanted to play Open Arms by Journey. I wanted to play this song so badly. And she flat out told me it was too hard. And so I went home, and because I am very stubborn, I learned it, and then I memorized it. And then I went back to my piano lesson and I played it for her. And then we got a new piano teacher.
That is a great story.
So a lot of my piano lessons end in stubbornness, honestly. And I remember playing in high school, going to one of the nursing homes in town, and they had what was called piano bar. And they would bring all the residents down, and they'd have drink 7-Up and eat pretzels. And I would play the piano and just play Christmas music, playing all of these Christmas tunes. And this little old lady was sitting off to the side, and I kept hearing her say, I wish she'd play Silent Night. I really like Silent Night. And I turned to her and I said, I am playing Silent Night. You need to listen. So lots of piano memories, because I did a lot of that all the way through school, and then started the clarinet in the 5th grade. Didn't want to play the clarinet, but it fit in my backpack. So that was why I wanted to play the flute, but the flute, I couldn't get a sound on the flute. So played the clarinet, and that took me all the way through college. And I went to University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, studied theory and composition. And because I did not want to be a teacher. And then, and the opportunities that studying music gave me led me to Denmark, and then back working in a community center for AmeriCorps and conducting the little old ladies singing in the choir.
Wow.
And then through that, then I decided to go to Bowling Green State University for my master's degree, and was studying clarinet performance because I really liked performing, but ended up switching over to education because I realized I like being with people, and I didn't like spending 8 hours alone in a practice room to go to an hour rehearsal. So it was the people part of it, and started teaching. And I've been teaching now this is my 19th year.
Congratulations. Congrats. That's a feat. And you still like it.
I still like it. Yep. And I go back again next year.
Awesome. So a couple questions. Great job synopsizing. Is that a word? Putting into a synopsis your musical journey. So do you like playing clarinet now?
I do. I like it very much. I
So
did not like it in middle school.
so when was that transition, and do you remember why, going from not liking it to liking it?
I remember in junior high, I hated the sound of the clarinet. I did not like the sound of it at all. And then when I got to ninth grade, I found a teacher that helped me get a better sound. And my mom would not let me quit. So that was part of it because I just had to keep struggling through it. And she wouldn't let me quit. And by ninth grade, I think I figured out how to play it. And so then I really liked the sound. And now I do like the sound of the clarinet.
Yeah, it can sound pretty harsh. And then when you hear a really good clarinet player, it's so smooth. But I can understand when you're first starting, not quite as difficult maybe as the oboe to get a good sound. But yeah, I love the clarinet. I love the clarinet.
And it's one of those instruments that has a lot of bumps along the way. Like it's easy kind of in the beginning, and then it gets really hard, and then it gets easy again, and then it gets hard again. And so you're never quite done.
Isn't that the thing about art? Any art, it's a lifelong learning process. You never get there.
No.
It's the striving to get there that is golden, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the day one of my favorite piano teacher told me that she had to go to her piano lesson. And I was just heartbroken because I realized this never ends. Like you never get to the finish. If she's still taking lessons,
Right.
I'm never going to be done.
Right. Now, is there joy in that fact?
There is, because I know that I'm never going to run out of music.
Right.
And there's always more to learn, and I can always get better. I can keep getting better all the time.
Yeah. Do you think that your music teachers, when you were in middle school, let's say elementary, middle school, that they had an influence on you eventually becoming a teacher, even though at first you didn't want to be?
When I think about my teachers, that it's the music teachers and band directors that stick out in my head. Whether I liked them or not, they all had an impact, and made me into the musician that I am. And their teaching styles, some are, that is not how I want to teach my middle schoolers. And others, I think about the opportunities that they gave us and the freedoms that they gave us to do things. And that's the encouragement I want to give to my middle schoolers. Like,
yeah,
this might not work, but we're going to try it.
That's great. And you never say, no, that's too difficult. Don't learn that.
They bring songs they want to learn, and I go, okay, well, we'll start at it.
That's great. When did you start playing professionally? Was your first gig at the retirement community that you played Christmas carols for? Did you get paid for it? Otherwise, it's not pro.
I did get for it. I probably got a pretzel.
Well, exactly.
I played in high school. I played for the municipal band in Winona, Minnesota. And their municipal band, community band, you had to be asked to be invited. You had to be invited.
Okay.
To play. And then you got paid $6 a concert.
Wow. The big bucks.
Big bucks.
So the honor is in being asked, not in what you're paid.
No, exactly.
Yes. That's great. That's great. Well, Rachel, I want to turn to this first song that you have chosen to play for us to play today. And it's called Vier dans Clarinetten. And it was written by you. Will you tell me a little bit about writing the song?
So this was a piece that I wrote while I was studying in Denmark for a semester in college. And during that time, I was studying with a composer, a Danish composer there in Randers, Denmark. And so that's why it's called Vier dans Clarinetten. It is 4 Danish clarinets. And my clarinet teacher at the time had a hard time keeping Tuesday and Thursday straight, because Thursday in Danish is Torsday, and sounds a lot like Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we often missed each other. because we'd show up on the wrong days of the week, but we figured out eventually. And so this piece was part of my senior composition recital.
Okay.
And I played one of the parts of the clarinet.
Got it. When was it recorded then?
So this would have been recorded in 96, fall of 96.
All right. Well, let's take a listen to this original composition by my guest, Rachel Gordon Mercer. And it's called Vier Dans Klarinetten. And here it is. This is Pauline Jennings, and you're listening to Musician Talk, hosted by me. You just heard Fire Dance Klarinetten, a portion of it, written by my guest, Rachel Gordon Mercer, and featuring her on the clarinet. Okay, I really like this song. I like the melodies and the intertwining of things is just really, really nice to listen to.
Thank you.
Well done. Have you written much since college? Composed?
No, I've started a lot of things, and I have finished very few.
Okay. I resemble that remark. Not with writing music, but other things.
Most of what I've written since college is out of necessity.
Got it.
I need a piece for this group of students to play. And so I write that, or I need a part for this kid as part of this larger piece that's already, and so I add in that part.
Got it.
So, yeah.
It seems like a person needs time and headspace to compose. It's not something, maybe I'm wrong on this, and maybe some people can do this when you're working, particularly teaching kids and music all day, to sit down and write something. It seems to be an overwhelming thought.
I agree. When I was writing a lot, it was that was all I was doing.
Right.
And I could focus on that. And then I had access to a lot of players, while I was in college, who could play things for me. Like, I don't know how to play the baritone, play this, and they could do that, and I could hear what it, and I don't like the computer sounds as much as real sounds.
Right. There's programs now where it can play back what you're putting into it, but I can't imagine that that's very satisfying. What are some of your favorite aspects to teaching and directing music?
I love working with kids and working with people. I like being with people.
Mhm.
And band kids are the best kids, honestly. I'm not biased at all, but the band kids are the best kids. So if you want if you want something done, you want kids who will take a hold of it and get it done, go ask the band kids, because they will do it. And I love watching them work at something and then succeed and see what and the pride that gives them. So when we put on a concert and we work at the middle school level, we work for months on music before we put on a concert. Our first concert is usually in January.
Wow.
And so they have started in September with me and worked for months until that concert in January. And that's a long time, especially in a world where they get a lot of instant gratification from video games. And, they get that instant feedback of you did it, won, and
Right.
band it's not like that. And everybody wins. And so when they get to that concert and how excited and proud of themselves they are, whatever they sounded like,
Right. Right.
they succeeded and they did it. And some of them have to work really, really hard to get to that point. I that makes me so happy. And then the fact that in my job, I get to work with them for multiple years. So I get to teach them for 3 years, sixth through eighth grade. And they grow so much in those 3 years, and they change so much in those 3 years. It's incredible. And so it's so fun to watch them. And then even too, I was watching the senior recognition concert for our high school last week, and seeing these kids as they're graduating from high school and remembering them as sixth graders. And you go, look at what you've done. This is just incredible. And sometimes they're kids that, like, I can't believe they signed up for seventh grade.
Right.
And here they are, they've played all the way through high school and are going on to be music teachers. I mean, it's just amazing. So.
Indeed. As far as the brain and teaching music and the benefits that teaching music has on the brain, particularly, I mean, I guess for all of us, but particularly developing brains. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that there is a lot of good that comes from learning to play an instrument. And some of it is coordination wise. They're using, they've done so many studies of what parts of the brain are being used when you're playing an instrument, and they're learning a language, and they're learning math skills, and they're all of those analytical things, and they're learning all of that. And at the same time, they're learning all of the social, emotional skills that they need to be good people. And they are learning how to work well with other people, because we're playing in a large group. And, they're figuring out, how does my part fit in with the larger group? How can I make this group better by my part? What can I do to make this whole thing a success? And then they learn that responsibility of being part of something that's larger than themselves. They can't create that music by themselves in the band.
Right.
They need everybody else. So I think that those sort of other skills are what's so important, along with the brain development, and the coordination and all of that. That's really important too. So in band, in music, they get all of that in place.
Right. I can't think of any other study that you would do that would affect you in so many different ways and make you better people. I mean, that's so huge, right?
Yeah.
It actually makes these kids better people, as I think, because of all those things that you said, working together and being part of a whole and all those kind of things is so important, as well as the brain development, which, like you said, many studies shows that brain development is accelerated if you learn an instrument or learn to sing.
Doesn't go away when you stop. Right. And when they look at the elderly and people who have had strokes, and the things that they remember are the music or the fingerings on a flute, that muscle memory, it's there and it doesn't go away.
Have you seen that YouTube, a woman in a wheelchair? She's very, very old. She's non-responsive. And they put on Swan Lake or something that she's a professional ballerina. And they put it on and she's in her chair and she just starts moving her hands beautifully. And the muscle memory is right there. She can't remember her kids' names, but she remembered that. That just, well, there you go. I mean, what more can you say about the impact that music and theater and art has on our life? So let's move on to the second song that you picked for us to play. And it's called Still I Rise. And this, again, is a composition written by you. And why don't you tell me about writing this song?
So this one, the words are by Maya Angelou, their poem, Still I Rise. And it is piano and baritone and voice. So my roommate was a piano player, and a good friend of mine was playing the baritone, and another friend who was a vocalist and a soprano. And so the thought of this Still I Rise, and you have the high vocal range of the soprano, and then the gorgeous tone of a baritone, which is an instrument that I didn't know how to play at the time. I thought it was really interesting to be able to put those two together, and the piano is kind of the glue that holds it all together.
So what instruments do you all play?
So I play the piano, and then the clarinet, and I learned how to play the saxophone for jazz band in high school because nobody claps after piano solos, because the piano never stops playing and they don't get to stand up. And I hated that. So I said, I want to learn how to play the saxophone. So I learned saxophone for that. So those I'm good at. I've been learning how to play the cello for almost 20 years, and I am terrible. And I play the guitar to some extent. And then, of course, the ukulele is my newest love, and have been learning the ukulele. And then I play all the band instruments to proficiency, for teaching, some better than others.
Well, you throw that remark off like it's just nothing. And of course, then all the band instruments. That's a feat. And that is incredible. And Steve said to me today, because he knows you and you guys are friends. And he said, yeah, she knows all the instruments. Those teachers, they have to know them all. They work harder than anybody out there, any musician out there. It's the teachers that work so hard. That's awesome. All right, back to Still I Rise, this piece that you wrote. And this is the same concert as the first song. Well, let's just take a listen and we'll talk about it afterwards. This is Still I Rise by Rachel Gordon Mercer.
Did you want to see me broken, wounded, and low? Shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my sober cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it off. 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still I care.
You are listening to Musician Talk, hosted by me, Pauline Jennings, talking with my guest, Rachel Gordon Mercer. You just heard a portion of her original composition, Still I Rise. The soloist, I'm a singer, so that's, of course, what I noticed first, is incredible. It's all spot on. I mean, it's just, and it's so, she sings so ethereal, and yet you have this baritone in there that really grounds it. And then the piano, like you said, bringing it all together. It's beautiful. I love the mix of those instruments with the voice. It's just beautiful, Rachel.
Thank
Really,
you.
really well done.
One of the things that I remember about when I was writing that and having people sing that part for me, because I'm not a singer, and I tell my band often that I play the clarinet for a really good reason, because nobody wants to hear me sing. And she told me, and several people told me that I write really well for vocalists. I have several pieces that I've written for vocalists that I can't sing myself. I can't sing them. So I'm glad somebody can.
Rachel, we have come to the part of this show called Best Gig, Worst Gig. And it's mostly to bring levity. That's why we talk about the worst gig. And quite often we learn from it. Somebody learns from it, perhaps. So do you have anything that comes to mind that was just painful for one reason or another?
So as a middle school band director, you never know what is going to happen. And so I'm thinking about one concert in particular where the students showed up, and first I had, well, as they were arriving, I had a tuba player whose valves just weren't quite working correctly, and it smelled funny.
Oh, no.
And my first question is always, did you oil the valves? And he said, yes. And I said, did you use the valve oil? And he said, we couldn't find any, so I used vegetable oil. So that was the first one. Then the next tuba player came in and she said, it won't play this note. And we look and she's missing pieces of her second valve. Like there's supposed to be a spring in there. There was all kinds of things that were missing. So we're scurrying around. We're at the high school trying to find a tuba for her to use. Right. And middle schoolers play on smaller size tubas than high schoolers.
Okay.
And so she ended up playing on this gigantic full-size 4-valve tuba for the concert. And it was like bigger than the child. And then the clarinet player comes up to me at the beginning of, as we're walking onto the stage, and she says, something's wrong. And I look at her clarinet and the thumb rest and the bottom was completely missing. It had like broken right off. So with middle schoolers, you never know what's going to happen. Never know.
Yeah.
And I always come with at least a screwdriver in my bag, and we just cross our fingers, hope for the best, and make it work. I do whatever I can to make sure they can play for that concert.
You need a screwdriver, an optimistic attitude, and a good sense of humor.
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's end with the best gig. What was like your fondest memory on stage, yourself or directing? Either way.
Oh, it's often, honestly, the last thing I heard. And this week, that would have to be just Tuesday night. I went to our 9th grade concert in Farmington, and heard our 9th graders. Brought me to tears because I haven't heard live music. That wasn't the first I've heard in a year. My daughter had a jazz concert, which also brought me to tears. But Tuesday night, just seeing these were they're 9th graders now. I had them as 6th graders, 7th graders. Our 8th grade year got cut short. We didn't get to do any of the goodbyes we normally do, any of the celebrating, you finished middle school, any of that stuff. So just to be able to see them on stage and see that they have continued and this crazy year and they're still playing, it just brought me to tears. And I think I was maybe the only one giving the standing ovation, but I stood up and clapped as loud as I could for those kids when they finished that concert, because it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
That's a beautiful sentiment to end with. However, I have a couple more things to ask you about. And that one is the ukulele playing. You say that you play ukulele because ukulele makes people happy.
Yes.
Why do you think it makes me happy? I totally agree. Even though I could play only about 4 chords, but I mean, you can play a lot of songs with 4 chords. What is it?
It is the happiest little instrument, I think, that I have ever found. And no one can hear a ukulele. I mean, it just makes people happy, whether they're playing it or listening to it. It makes people happy. So I can play the same 3 chords for a half an hour. And I have only one daughter who will complain. So, sometimes I just wander around school playing the ukulele, and whether they think I'm crazy or it truly makes them happy, everybody smiles.
That's great. So if you want to play ukulele, you have a group that you lead Wednesday nights, at least pre-COVID. And where can people go to find out information about that and when it's going to restart, or if it already has?
Yes. So they can go to the Hotspot website. I don't know
just put in Hotspot Northfield. It'll come up.
Hotspot Northfield, and it will come up, and there you can get the schedule. So we are working on creating the schedule for starting in June. We'll be starting up in June again. And if people don't know anything about the ukulele, I will teach them everything they need to know at the ukulele jam. We have players who have been playing for many, many years, and some that have been playing for a day. If you don't have a ukulele and you want to come and try out a ukulele, I will bring you a ukulele.
Man, you sound like the best teacher in the world. I got to get my butt down there. So I will look forward to that and look forward to seeing you play live sometime. And thank you so very much for being on this episode of Musician Talk. And it was a lot of fun to talk with you.
Thank you very much. This was very fun. I appreciate it. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Many, many thanks to Rachel for joining me today for this delightful and insightful conversation this morning. And heartfelt gratitude to you for listening to Musician Talk on the One, KYMN. Tune in next week and have a terrific day.